Hey guys, what's up? All right. It's Double Deuce back, radio out of control. Oh, today it's rise and shine. It's going to be engine time. I'm going to go over a few things here, and I'm not going to get into too much depth, but I want to try to briefly go over some stuff. I've had a lot of questions on, how to build stuff, what do I need, and all that stuff. But it all started with this right here. This is the FS100. This is how it all started for me. I guess as far as the 4-stroke and scale engines, I've done a lot with, the 2-strokes all my life. Small, big, junk, good ones, ugly, pretty. But anyways, grab your favorite smoke, beverage, and popcorn and hang out with Double Deuce today, because we're going to go over a few things here. Just a couple engines. This is only a handful of the ones that I do have, and we're going to go over a build too. And that's what started the FS100 right there. So here we go. Okay, so like I say, it started off with this little FS100 engine. I seen it advertised online one time. I don't even know where I seen it at. And that's when I met the Sterling Kit team. Now, Engine DIY sells the stuff too, but I've mainly dealt with Sterling Kit. They've been really good to me, and so that's why I stick with them. Visit sterlingkit.com, and I'll put a link below. That way there you can kind of go over some things. So it all started off with, like I say, this here. I put it in this little build right here. It was an HGP 407. This is my first viral video right here. It went into this. I had this in there, and I tell you what, it scooted this thing along pretty good. You can see I made all kinds of plates and aluminum and stuff to bend it, which I got at my local hardware store, and scraps and stuff I had laying around. And this engine here is the Somato, or whatever they call that thing. That's their, it's almost like the Toyin twin cylinder, which I have done a bunch of those in the HGP 407 bodies and the RC 4-wheel drive Blazers, which you'll see over there on the shelf, right there. That's the Blazer. So that has a twin. That one's actually water cooled. These are air cooled, and the nitro helps cool them. So that was one of the questions I had. Now, of course, this here led into the L400. And now the L400 was a real controversial engine because it revved like crazy, except it kept breaking crankshafts. And so they updated the L400 to the gas version, and they actually put a center support bearing in here. And it's like, this here's a really good engine. I've revved the pants off this thing 12 minutes straight, boiled it over, and it just kept right on taking it. I've actually built the right there, the big Skyline. I put the air suspension in it. That was an L400, and I was running I think it was a Traxxas Revo 3.3 gearbox. Now that right there is a go-to gearbox, and I'll get to that later in the video. Let me see. I made a list here because I get sidetracked sometimes and I talk too much. So the other L400, you're going to see there's a lot of differences in this engine. This one here is the gas version. You see, it's got an ignition system, and yeah, the spark kind of jumps all over the place and here and there, but this thing really for the most part, runs good. It's water cooled, and they kind of reconfigured the intake manifold and put the nitro carb on there. So the nitro carbs are really sensitive to, you know, I guess what you want to say, tuning. Okay, when you have a nitro setup, you can, you know, it's pretty forgiving. You can play with it a little bit; it'll still run because it's got a glow plug. With the ignition system and the gasoline, you're going to have to really be cool with that. Now, I'll show you another build I did with an HGP 407 here. This one here. Now that right there is your Toyin L400. Now this thing here was pretty cool. Now you got to notice I got differentials in this thing because you need them with these engines. It brings out the best of the engines. Now I'm also running the Revo 3.3 forward reverse gearbox in here. And, you know, and this one here is just a hodgepodge of just a bunch of different parts. It's got the axial Wraith axles in it, the aftermarket ones. And you see it's got the, what is that? Hot Racing lower link thing on there. And it's got a hodgepodge of different drive shafts in it. And like I say, this one is water cooled also. Now these, I have hammered these things, and these don't really get that hot, but it's still nice to have the water cooling. So I'll set this back over here, and then there we go. Now let's see. Then I got into the Sisson 175s. Now, I always thought this was a cool engine. I thought this would go cool in a small project, a Jeep, like an 8 scale, 10 scale. You could squeeze these in. And I thought, wow, it'd be cool to make an old Jeep. I mean, they do have that 6 scale Jeep out now, you know, and it's relatively cheap, like $300 or something, but it's a lot of plastic. You know, there's really not a lot of metal. I'm like I need like a frame or a chassis to start building off of for the scale and reality of it. Now, this one here reminds me of the old Gold Devil World War II Jeep engines. You know, you're going to see I altered the starter on it because that was one of the first problems we had with this, was the starter motor was way too small. And then I converted this thing to nitro. Now, this is water cooled also. You see it's got the radiator. And I put a Traxxas T-Max carb on this thing, and this is one of their first generation T-Max carbs. And then you'll see there's a clutch kit they sell at sterlingkit.com that you can put it mount a clutch on here. Now this right here is like a, you know, it's very important, and I'll get to the clutches too later on here, because there's a lot of differences between a 2-stroke clutch and a 4-stroke clutch. 2 strokes you get higher RPM, 4 strokes you get half the RPM. So you're going to need lighter springs or heavier shoes. So now, okay. So during the meantime, when I was messing with my Toyin L400, I thought, man, you know what, like I'd really like a V8. And then one day I was just sitting there having a few pops, and I said, huh, what if I made my own? So I had 2 L400s. I mounted one way, one the other way, and then ran a slave shaft down here, you know, to hook them together so they would, you know, run. And it did run. I have a video up of it, and I'll try to find that video. All I did was took a piece of angle steel, 1/8" angled steel, and mounted the 2 engines to the steel. Made a little box down there, and I put one of the oil pans back on it, so it looked pretty cool. Now I wanted to have these both facing front, so the belts are out front, but the cylinder head would not turn around. I couldn't turn the camshaft around in it, and it, you know, it was a lot of work. But I thought it would look cool with the carb stacks up on the top here, like so. And I just hooked them up to a little simple shaft here where they all open at once, you see. And that was pretty cool, you know. And the exhausts are out the side, you know, so it looks pretty cool. And I had 2 radiators mounted in the front here, and I had the cooling coming around both sides. So that was my first Toyin V8. And I remember I got all kinds of messages from the internet out there, because Toyin at the time had their first generation V8 in like the larva stage, and I did not know that. And so this one here, I've revved this thing some crazy RPMs. I put it in a couple of builds. I've actually rebuilt the thing. I had to order all new rods and pistons for it because it threw a rod at a stupid RPM, like 14,000, 12,000, 14,000, and so it, you know, it kind of wounded the block. So I tore it all apart and kind of threw it back together again, you know. So, you know, that's pretty cool. That was like the answer to my prayers. And at the same time, you know, I was building the Aussie V8 here, you'll see. And this one here, I got the supercharger for it. Now, these are cool engines. I mean, don't let nobody tell you any different. This is where it all started on the V8s. Was the Aussie V8 engine, and it was just, you know, this used to be the Conley, and the guy got all the tooling and continued Gary's legacy, and you could still buy these today. You know, they're about $2,500, $3,000, you know, for the kits. The superchargers, a lot more. They do have, he's coming out with a lot of cool things, like I bought the billet heads for mine. They're upgraded cylinder heads, and they do have a billet supercharger body. Now this is a nitro. It's water cooled, and you know, it's got some power. You know, there's a lot of builds out on the internet. This actually led into the Stinger 609, I believe it was. Yeah, let me get this back where it should be. This just sits on here with a couple of rubber O-rings for easy access. It's twin carb. Now, I had a comment, these engines eat a lot of fuel, even gasoline. They eat a lot of gas too, for the gasoline versions. And then from there, I got a prototype, let me see here, Ford L6. And I thought this was pretty cool because it was pretty iconic. The Ford L6 engine, you know, had like twin cars, kind of reminded me of the Strombergs. And this is their production unit here. Now, this is gasoline also. It's got micro spark plugs in it. And the prototype they sent me had, I guess, a lot of unfinished stuff just to get it out. And I still have that engine. And I converted that to nitro with glow plugs. Now, you can run any one of these engines on nitro glow plugs, okay? You don't need the ignition setups. One thing you're going to find out is if you run them on nitro, you're not going to have that electrical feedback that's going to be glitching out your radio, okay? That's going to be a problem. So, now this is the Porsche flat. This is the BSF 400, I believe it is. It's the flat 4. It's yeah, it's the FSB 400. Now this here is an awesome engine. It's air cooled also with nitro. It's got twin carbs on it that look like it's 4 carbs. You know, there's really one carb with a box on top, And this thing here is pretty cool. The only problem is their flywheel, the way it's set up, it doesn't slide on the shaft. It goes inside your one-way starter bearing here. And if a lot of people have problems with their belts and one-way starter bearings and all that stuff, but you can buy the bearings. Actually, I bought them on eBay. I buy them, you know, a bunch at a time, and I would have them within a couple of days. But all these one-way starter bearings are still all available at StirlingKit.com, and like radiators, and you know, there's a lot of parts for a lot of engines on there, and so over time, you know, I was asked to sample the V12, the Chiangkai V12, and I refused it, and I got it in the mail anyway, and it turned out to be one of the craziest high revving engines that, you know, so far. And this is wicked cool, this engine. I don't know how much power it puts out. It's gasoline and it has oil in it, so it has like a Walbro style carb on there, you know, like a weed whacker carb, and like I say, it's water cooled, and these things do get hot, so you know, keep that in mind. Now back to the Toyin. Now they went through a couple of different phases with this, and everybody knows that. It was the Toyin V8, and then it was the Howen V8, and then they had some crazy Kickstarter campaign on here where these were blue, and I don't know where that went. They were supposed to send me one, and they couldn't get it running, so I didn't get one. I didn't get one of the new upgraded ones. And from there, I just kind of moved on, you know, and there's still a lot of them engines out there. Now, this here is one of my recent engines. It's the Hoglet. It's like the little early motorcycle engine. It's pretty cool. It's got a little kickstart on here, and I did a review on this. And everything's open in here, and you can see the camshaft. You can see the rocker arms go up and down. These are like learning engines. It's got an open crankcase in it, so you know, to put it in a build and take it out would be, you know, it's going to dirty the bearings and wipe the engine out. But this is also runs on gasoline, pre-mixed two-stroke fuel, just like the Toyin, the new Toyin Gas 400 version. This runs off like a two-stroke fuel. This here runs off nitro or regular gasoline because it has an oil pump on the thing. And a lot of these engines are, you know, both gasoline and everything else. And of course, we know the old Zona single cylinder, you know, pretty much weed whacker engine there. That's what we all started with, but see, this is where it all becomes. Now, this is just a few of the engines I have, because my most recent build was the SCX6, the 6-scale one with the Sisson V8 in it, and their gearbox. And I had some problems with the radio glitching out because of the ignition system. So I've been messing with that here and there. I've got it kind of figured out. I'm waiting for a couple more parts. I've tried the ferrule rings. I've tried different servos, everything. And so far, you know, I've changed everything. And I think the problem with that is either the steering servo is bad, which I even messed with that with a brand new servo, and it was still the same. So I don't know if it's the speed control I got to use it for the starter motor, because all these here, if you hook up a regular RC speed controller to your brushed or brushless, it depends on what setup you have, because some of these engines have both. This is a brush one. You get a brush speed controller, just put your throttle on another channel like an auxiliary, and you can start it right from your radio. Very simple. And you know, it's like a, you know, a thing that we all have run across. I've had a lot of questions on that, like how do you start it from there? I've actually went and got the winch controllers, the wireless ones, and I've had them where you can just, it's a little key fob, you just hit it. Now you got to be within so many feet of the truck, and what it does the same thing, except it doesn't go through your speed controller. It goes through a little box that you wire up to 7.2 or 11.1 volts or whatever, and when you hit it, it triggers it, starts it up for you. And I have, like I say, a couple of them up there. So, you know, like I've done different builds with the motorcycle engines. I did the Hoglet build, you know, or not the Hoglet, but the Panhead build, the chopper build, and so I still have the Ingemoor V8, the V12, which I just got running because the brushless starter motor on the thing wasn't big enough to turn them over, and so I bought one from StarlingKit.com to put on there because they kept sending me the same ones, and then I bought the high torque one for the Ingemoor V8, and that motor started right up, and it was pretty cool. So now I know this video is getting lengthy, but I'm going to go into some things you might want to use, some things you're going to need here, like brake tubing, this or fuel tube. This is 5/16 fuel line. You buy it in like a different, like this is, I buy them like a 60-inch section, and I use the little brake tube fuel line cutter, and I cut them and bend them to make headers. Now I'm making these headers here for the Chanquai V12. You see, I've already got them bent and kind of figured out, and I bought one of them jewelry welders. I'm going to start messing with that in one of my upcoming videos. Radiators. Now this here is a very small, or I should say it's large compared to these ones. When you look at the size, this is a really small radiator, and this is a big one. Now this here is actually a heater core out of a Honda Odyssey van, a rear heater core, and you can take the pipes off here and you can alter this, and I've done this on my 55 Chevy with the V8 and make a radiator out of it. And so that works pretty cool. Now here's something I just ordered, was a bunch of these little rubber isolators here. I got them, you can buy them 8 at a time, 12 at a time. I use these for engine mounts. Now the ones that I buy are actually threaded on both ends. Now this one here is for your 6mm, which would be a 10mm out for your socket, and these here for your 4mm. And these are there's a female and a male end. And so I've been using these, and these are these take out a lot of vibration. You know, I got them in different thicknesses too. They take out a lot of vibration in the frame because these engines do vibrate a lot. And of course you're going to need some good grease. Like I use the Valvoline marine grease. This here was something that I stumbled across. I'm going to need is that you can buy these at Walmart. They're syringes, you know, and you can add your oil to your engines because some take 28, some take 30, you know, some take 20, you know, and you can measure it right out here and put your oil in, and you can use it for antifreeze too, or you want to put antifreeze in, that way you're not making a big mess trying to pour everything. You're going to need a couple of markers. If you're an old man like me, you're going to need your spectacles to see these little nuts. You know, like things like your RTV sealers to seal up your crankcases. You know, Q-tips, toothpicks, all that stuff comes in handy. You're definitely going to need some thread lock. Have this, and I have the red. I've used both. Usually I put the red in the crankcase, you know, but I found out that's a little overkill. So now I use the red for clutches, things on the outside that vibrate loose. So, and you're going to need your little LiPo battery tester, small screwdrivers and stuff. Buy a cheap set of the calipers. If you're going to build something, that works good. Your tweezers, you need tweezers. I have a couple different sets of these. Now this is something that I had just recently realized on the new Toyon V8, which is a pretty cool engine. They got multiple, you know, inlet ports and outlet ports for your cooling, and this works good on multi-carb fuel line too. If you have 2 carbs, you want to, you know, it's got Y's and T's and all that, and you can, that's what I use there. I just bought these at actually these are Dorman. I bought these at O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and you know, so the Toyon V8 here, this is the new gas version. Okay, this little thing revs like pretty good. This thing puts out some power. Now, I'm not a big fan of the zoomies, but I'll probably end up just making a set of headers for whatever I build to put this in. And like I say, when you get back to things you need, you're going to need like an overflow tank. Okay, I've ran these without overflow tanks, and it's really hard to bleed the systems, but this is a motorcycle brake reservoir is all it is. And you can buy these things on eBay. They're super cheap. I have, I bought the aluminum ones, which you can't really see through. I like the ones you can see through. And this here, they all have little ears on them, you know, and you can mount them right to your radiator just like I did. And, you know, this right here, you can just hook this to the bottom with one of them connectors with a T, and that way you can monitor your, you know, just have this go to the bottom hose and have your return hose go in the top of your radiator and mount this like right up to the radiator, and you'll be able to monitor your cooling level to see if you're losing any fluid, which is really important. Fuel tanks. We got the Toyon aluminum fuel tanks. I like the ones you can see in. Now these here, they send them with every engine kit you buy. The bottom, you're going to see I altered this one. I took the nipple out of the top, put a screw in it, and just put it in the bottom, because in the very bottom, you'll see that thing's right up against the bottom of the case, and they starve the things for fuel. Oh, this is a Traxxas fuel tank. You know, as long as you can get something with a vent in it. Now, these do eat a lot of fuel, so you might want to buy like the B5 Baja tank. You know, these are this way here if you're tuning, testing, whatever, playing, and all that. Now you can go with different gearboxes with this thing. You know, they've made all kinds of different gearboxes. Now this one here is for electric. This has no reverse. It's just a two-speed, high and low. You can run all these things in there if you can adapt the clutch and mount this solid to the engine somehow, even if it's bars on the side. And like I say, you know, here's your clutch kits you can buy. A lot of these have 2 for 2 speeds. You can put a 2-speed on them on your gearbox, you know, or you can run them directly into, you know, you can run this clutch bell directly to the gearbox and then have your flywheel with your clutch shoes on there. And these engines produce a lot of power, so you can gear them right up, you know. So I hope that answered some questions, because I've been just kind of going through a bunch of stuff here, and I wanted to get the video up, answer a few of the questions I've got, because to answer them individually takes a long time sometimes. So anyways, guys, loved all. Like, share, subscribe if you want. Any questions, comments, put them down below and I'll try to get back to them. And if I can't get to all the questions, I'll answer them live on a video, or on a video for everybody. So, all right, man. This is Denny. I'm out. Loved all. Adios.